Well, it's 4 p.m. here in Lagos, Nigeria, and the last edition of Network Africa. Grab a cup of coffee or whatever beverage you may enjoy as we begin the show. I'm Joke Rogers. Here's what's coming up. Death toll in Sierra Leone, building collapse, rises to 11 as incident raises questions over safety concerns. 152 people arrested for inciting irregular migration in Morocco. Plus, ousted Gabon President Ali Bongo withdraws from politics 1 year after major military takeover. Welcome once again to the program. We begin in Sierra Leone, where the death toll of a 7-story building collapse that occurred earlier this week has risen to 11. Authorities say 7 people are responding to treatment in hospital. The incident is raising questions over safety, as there has been several similar collapses in Freetown over the past few months. Officials also note most apartment buildings lack the right permits. However, the country's Ministry of Works and Public Assess has said that strict measures will be implemented to avoid future collapses.
Has come from an
Elsewhere now, ousted Gabon President Ali Bongo will not be participating in politics anymore. He made this disclosure during an official address to the country. In his words, "I wish to reaffirm my withdrawal from political life and the definitive renunciation of any national ambition." The 65-year-old's withdrawal from politics comes a year after he was toppled from power by a military coup. He also seized the opportunity to call for the release of his wife and son, who are in detention awaiting trial on corruption allegations. It's, however, not clear whether his statement follows any negotiations with the military rulers. Well, all of Nigeria's children deserve access to a high-quality education system that gives them the skills they need to build a brighter and more prosperous future. This formed part of discussions at the flag-off of the commencement of the Partnership for Learning for All Nigeria program in southwest Nigeria. According to the British Deputy High Commissioner, Mr. Johnny Baxter, PLAIN, as it's called, is a 7-year education program funded by the UK government with a mission to improve learning outcomes in Nigeria at the basic education level. For the technical lead, non-state governance systems in PLAIN, Dr. James Fadokun, the program's engagement in the region will focus extensively on supporting non-state schools, while the Permanent Secretary, Ministry of Education, Lagos State, Mr. Abayomi Abolaji, who represented the Commissioner for Education, is excited about the partnership. The program commenced in Nigeria in 2021, working in some northern states and at the federal level.
It's essential for any country to focus on education. It's absolutely true that here in Nigeria there are greater challenges, there are more out-of-school children, and the UK is really proud to have worked with Nigeria over many years to support the education systems here. Quite often that support is focused on women and girls, because in many parts of the country it's women and girls who are more excluded, and often actually it's also focused on practical skills that lead to employment as well, because that is one of the useful functions, not the only, but one of the useful functions of education. I'm really delighted to be here to extend this particular program into the Southwest now. We have had programming in the Southwest previously, but this is a return to supporting the Southwest. And really what we're trying to do here is provide catalytic support to help the government systems to improve the quality of education that's being provided, and particularly to increase the places where children can access education. And frankly, I think, as we're all aware, in places like Lagos, that has to mean non-state education as well, purely to absorb the numbers of children that there are.
Needed to extend the PLAIN programme to the Southwest. We really welcome the ability to work with the Dawn Commission, knowing that they act as this real sort of think piece and a place where knowledge is shared, is discussed, problems and issues are discussed right across the whole range of spectrum, from the economic development to human development, including education and other social and broader issues. So working with the Dawn Commission and with the Seed Foundation, we've built up such a great skill base in Lagos State. We really want to make sure that a lot of those awareness, knowledge, and how best to regulate the interface between low-cost non-state education and the public sector can be optimized, and to share that around the whole Southwest region.
The desire of your team to foster a more inclusive and effective education system is expected to promote growth and serve as another window to attract positive impact in the education sector. As you continue to strive for excellence, know that you have our support and encouragement. Lagos remains a model to other states in Nigeria, and we are ready to improve our strategy to remain the best in the country and indeed in the whole world.
Despite current efforts, commitment and efforts of the private sector in supporting the Lagos State HIV and AIDS response, there's a need to increase the sector's meaningful involvement and engagement in the state's AIDS response. This was the thrust at a gathering to review the HIV/AIDS expenditure in the state, while revealing that the 2018 to 2023 Lagos State AIDS Spending Assessment is the fifth state AIDS spending assessment conducted. The Chief Executive Officer of the agency, Dr. Folake Animashaun, reveals that the report will serve as a guide to address critical policy questions for all stakeholders, which includes whether funds are reaching intended targets.
This report provides essential insight that will guide and inform our efforts moving forward. It ensures that every naira spent reaches its intended beneficiaries and that our investments are impactful and efficient. The fight against HIV in Lagos State requires that we all work together, which include the government agencies, the civil society, the private sector, and our international partners. Your role is not just important, but very integral. By doing so, we can make significant progress in reducing new HIV infections, improving the quality of care of those living with HIV, and contributing to our shared goal of eradicating HIV in Lagos State.
No, the prevalence definitely has reduced because of the interventions over the last 15 to 20 years, because there have been a lot of response, and even the current medications that people are on help. If you have been consistent on treatment for 3 to 6 months, the efficacy of transmission of new infection is less because you achieve viral suppression, and then new infections are reduced to the barest minimum.
In terms of optimizing available resources, you need to identify who are the people who need these services most and ensure that you target the available resources to them. This is the thing that is done everywhere in the world. You cannot meet the need of every individual who needs the services, but you need to prioritize and ensure that those, especially the vulnerable ones, who do not have the resources to be able to access this care on their own.
152 people have been arrested for inciting irregular migration in Morocco. They are expected to face trial on accusations that they used social media to ignite an attempt at mass illegal migration into the adjacent Spanish enclave of Ceuta. According to authorities, nearly 3,000 people have attempted to migrate irregularly from northern city of Findek, stressing that all these attempts have been successfully foiled. In the first 8 months this year, Moroccan authorities thwarted 45,050 migration attempts and dismantled 177 criminal networks involved in human trafficking. Let's get more on this. Joining us is immigration lawyer Dayo Fatina. Pleasure having you on the program today.
Oh, good afternoon. Thanks for having me, and a good afternoon to your viewers.
Right. So let's begin with what you make of the use of social media by unknown sources to lure people for irregular migration as we see it play out in Morocco.
Yes, good afternoon once again. The situation with social media these days, I think the world should now realize that social media is one of the very most powerful mediums of communication throughout the whole world. Hence, it's not quite surprising that people actually use it for activities, just like what you just mentioned, to lure people into irregular, illegal immigration activities. It's not quite surprising at all. The situation would get worse because of how powerful this medium is. I mean, the social media. There's not much many people could actually do about that. How do you control people all over the world doing this? Or anybody, take for instance, in Morocco doing this? In Morocco, it's one thing for them for the Moroccan authorities to want to prosecute or to want to, make sure that people do not do this in Morocco. But I mean, how do we actually curb this kind of situation outside Morocco? What if in case there are so many Moroccans outside Morocco who are again using this same social media to lure illegal migration? So it's a very, very big problem for not just Morocco, Africa, but the whole world.
And Morocco has said it has foiled the attempt of over 45,000 people from illegally migrating to Europe this year. This is a widespread problem, not just in Africa, but across the world. And what can really be done to avert the soaring numbers?
Illegal migration, irregular illegal migration, has been a mega problem for not just Europe, but the whole world. There are very many causes as to why people would just want to get out of their countries of origin. I mean, many of them are not quite content and satisfied. They are hopeless. They don't know where they're going or coming. So they would want to actually leave many of these African countries. And I think a few things the European countries can do and should be doing is, first of all, many of these European countries would need a very, very strong, effective, profound border control of many of their borders in their countries. This is so essential. Many European countries, although they are doing their best, to make this happen, but their security and the border control system would have to be robust. That's one. Two, the situation to do with why people would, why any human being in any of these countries would just wake up one day and then conclude that, I'm so totally fed up of my country. I now want to leave this country and I will take any chance whatsoever to cross the channels or do anything I need to do to get out of this country. Again, European countries should possibly start looking into the root cause of all this, as to why people would want to leave their countries in the first place, and try to encourage and make sure that many of these African countries, particularly many of the ones that are quite totalitarian. We have so many totalitarian governments all over Africa, to get to the root of why people would want to leave these countries, and to at least do all Europe could to assist in democratic process and very, very good governance that would at least provide most of what the citizens of many of these countries need. Hence, they would not really want to run away from their countries or escape from their countries. Thirdly, another problem I think we have when it comes to this illegal migration is that this, with all due respect, alas, this same Western countries supply many of these dictatorial governments, with arms. Very, very little weapons, weapons of mass destruction to fight wars, to use this same, weapons and arms, to victimize, torture, and oppress their citizens. These arms should, if they could stop, providing these arms to many of these countries, they would not really have any means to be able to terrorize their citizens, or to at least to a point where there will be wars. At least there will be less wars. Hence, people would not want to say, I think I need to leave this country, and then start thinking of coming to Europe as refugees. These are some of the major things I think many of the Western countries should be looking at and thinking of doing, to curb the migration of so many people from Africa to Europe.
Many members of the Moroccan society believe that the government is responsible for this, talking about the cost of living situation and etc. They're calling on government to implement comprehensive strategies to address the root causes, as you have just, said. But does this justify really the desperate need to illegally migrate?
Again, as I mentioned earlier, as you just mentioned just now, the Moroccan authorities, the people of Morocco are at least insisting that something has to be done, really, as far as the standard of living is concerned, the Moroccan standard of living, how they're actually coping. There are so many economic, political problems in countries like Morocco and so many other African countries. But alas, again, when you have serious economic problems in a country and you have bad governance, governments that have fanked and failed their peoples, there are some people who would then just, at least a significant number of people who would conclude that, look, I don't particularly have any hope anymore in this country. And many of these people would do, they would risk anything, to leave their countries, to at least try to find a better way of life elsewhere, mainly, particularly Europe. And they will not care what they need to do, whether they need to actually go through the Mediterranean Sea or whether they would want to, go through take, for instance, what's happening between France and Britain, the Channel, the tunnel, the Channel Tunnel, to actually get to Europe. Many people have so much lost hope and they're so helpless at this point where they don't care. The desperation is so high that they don't care whether they're even risking their lives trying to travel to many of these European countries. It's a pity that's the situation, but unfortunately, that's where we are in the world today, I'm afraid.
Immigration lawyer Dayo Fajina, thank you for your time.
Oh, it's a pleasure. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Back, Nigerian startup The Mobile Prof is showing individuals how to turn their phones and tablets into remote work devices that can handle high-quality jobs. The startup began by teaching young people how to code using their mobile phones, and now they've evolved into doing much more than that. Take a listen.
Back in 2020, where we first paid a visit to the Mobile Prof founded by Samuel and Yaeli, the startup was all about teaching young people to code using just their smartphones. No PCs required.
So let's say we want to look at our downloads.
Many thought that was a brilliant approach, especially since smartphones were everywhere.
The same thing. The one is
Samuel's idea to give students the tools they need to learn how to code right in the palms of their hands was one that aimed to make learning more accessible, particularly in areas where traditional computers might not be available.
Remember the last time he came, there was a laptop in that shoot. So we needed for it to be a more mobile experience and more intrinsic experience. So we ensured that we created a system that enabled that to happen, and an energy efficient system that allows us to put together devices that work irrespective of what is happening with PHCN or what's happening with the cost of fuel.
Fast forward 4 years and the Mobile Prof had to make a big pivot. A combination of challenges led Samuel and his team to rethink their approach. So what's new with the startup?
When you last came, we didn't have our mobile e-library. Now we have our mobile e-library, which fortunately, a lot of people are even keen about. They want to mimic the same thing that we did for them, and it's opening up an unexpected new market for us. So we're now more focused on, instead of just beginner trainers, we're also teaching advanced people how to use tech people how to use mobile phones to augment their work and to carry their work around. There were some specific economic challenges. there is the more not in our control ones, and there were other ones within our control. True, the demand for mobile learning is huge, especially here, because most young people have mobile phone, but they don't have a PC. The challenge with that market is it's a market that doesn't have a lot of funds, because it's the funds that was even limiting them from getting the laptops in the first place. So you have a situation where you are making impacts, but you're not generating enough revenue to sustain that business model.
The startup decided to switch gears from smartphones to tablets. This new setup provided a better learning environment with a bigger screen and keyboard, while still letting students use their smartphones for practice. Samuel says this pivot wasn't without its hurdles. The team had to revamp their curriculum to align with the new tools, as well as adjust their teaching methods.
What we're teaching the beginners was introduction to computers, introduction to Linux, and all of that. But when you are teaching advanced people, a lot of the basic things are already learned. So you need to figure out how to bring in value that is worth them still using a mobile phone. So you would change curriculums to fit in with that advanced targets, and create a system that's a more conducive system for them to use in the office.
But with every challenge comes new opportunities. The switch to tablets and the creation of a mobile e-library opened up fresh avenues for learning and engagement.
Now we have a model, an e-library model that we are using as a basis for replicating the same energy efficient tablet only system across multiple spaces. So for example, a lot of schools are excited about reducing their energy consumption. So for them, it's important to have devices that do not consume a lot of electricity, that can be connected to battery, that can be connected to solar. So that creates a unique opportunity for investments to come in, not on our training model, but on creating those mobile e-libraries for different setups. That's a great opportunity for investment.
Despite the economic strains and the need to adapt, Samuel's startup, the Mobile Prof, has continued to thrive. The pivot to tablets has not only solved some of the earlier challenges, but also introduced new possibilities for coding education, keeping the original perks of learning on the go.
You would end up using a very heavy image.
The journey of newly hatched sea turtles from nest to sea is perilous, with only a small percentage surviving the first days in the ocean. But against all odds, an endangered baby turtle finally reached the sea in Mombasa, Kenya. It's all thanks to volunteers who carefully guided the baby turtle as it made its way to the ocean. Predators, artificial lights, and human interference all pose significant challenges to the survival of their survival. Sea turtles play a vital role in maintaining healthy marine ecosystems, contributing to the well-being of sea grass beds and coral reefs. However, conservationists from early bird standards say they hope to inspire greater environmental responsibility and action to protect these ancient marinas and the oceans they call home.
Let's go!
And finally on the program, as Nigerians in the UAE keep hopes up high that all impediments to residency and travel to the United Arab Emirates are resolved, a group of Nigerian footballers are gearing up for the upcoming Inter-Nations tournament, a unique opportunity for them not only to showcase their skills, but also to foster a positive change of their community in the UAE. Our correspondent, Mayawa Degoke, has more.
As the countdown to October 1 begins, the day many hope the troubles between Nigeria and the UAE will be put to rest, professional player Mayowa Olanikpekun hopes football will come to the rescue where diplomacy has failed.
That name Nigeria alone scares people a lot right now in this country, and we need to redeem that image. So I think through these little things, sports and every other thing we can do just to tell them that we're not bad people, they're actually very good people, and this could actually help us. It's like a very great idea.
Olanikpekun is one of several players preparing to compete in the forthcoming Internations tournament, an initiative bringing various communities resident in the UAE together in friendly competition. For these players, the tournament is not just an opportunity to advance their individual careers, it's also a chance to promote a positive image for Nigeria.
I think this is a good platform to actually put this outside for people to see that Nigeria is actually very good and calm people. Especially when it comes to sports in general, we're also really interested in sports.
Organized by a private group in collaboration with the Dubai Sports Council, the Diversity Inc. Internations Tournament comes with a grand prize, and team lead Oderide is determined to make this first outing a success.
We're hoping to win the first prize for football and the first prize also for the football supporters. Okay, and the tournament is going to start from October 5, and I think it's going to run for about 2 to 3 weeks.
Until the games kick off in a few weeks, this group of players will need to keep putting their best foot forward while the coaches select those who would represent Nigeria on the field of play. From Dubai in the United Arab Emirates, Maya Wadegoke for Channels Television News.
That's our show today. Thank you for watching. I'm Joka Rogers.